Throughout her life, our guest has been struggling with finding her core identity and not being able to express herself due to the traumas of her childhood. Nhung Nguyen relied on forms of escapism to make herself feel better, not realizing how much it affected her and her happiness. In a desperate attempt to find herself, she decided to take a leap of faith and went on a solo trip to Asia for almost 6 months and discovered so much more about herself. Then, in 2020, like for many others in this world, more lessons were learned from this pandemic. As scary and uncomfortable as it was, she realized it was time to face her inner fears. She is here on Comfort Kills today to share her healing journey in hopes her message can help someone else going through a similar situation.
Hi, Nhung. Welcome to Comfort Kills.
Hi, Jasmine. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I just want to say chúc mừng năm mới to our listeners again.
Yes. Happy New Year. Happy Lunar New Year. And so thank you so much for that. And of course, we'll be airing this later on, but totally so excited to have you here today because we have a lot in common, Nhung. And one, you look like my cousin Mai, but you sound like my cousin, or no, you look like my cousin Mai, but you have the name of my cousin Nhung, like first and last name. And
What?
It's just like, I'm so excited to have you here because you're like a merge of two cousins of mine, except you have a sexy Australian accent. So
thank you so much.
But we have so many similarities that I'm eager to talk to you to really get to know who you are and what your background looks like growing up as Vietnamese American as opposed to growing up Australian Vietnamese. And it's just like, I really want to see how our worlds are so similar or so different growing up in two totally different continents. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are and what your childhood looked like growing up?
For sure. And you know what? I think we're all related. But somehow down the track, our last names change or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But, I could be related to you, farther in the track, early on.
Right. Yeah.
So there you go. I born and raised in Australia, but my parents are Vietnamese. So I think the similarity is that I guess your parents also escaped after the war, migrated over.
Yes.
Yeah. So for my dad, he actually escaped by boat, but mum was luckier. She already had a sister in Australia, so she got supported over at the same time with my grandparents. And the thing is, when you're grown up with your mother tongue, with your roots being Asian, it's quite different when you're trying to integrate into the Western society, going to school.
Yeah.
So in primary school, right, because we lived in a Vietnamese community, I would still go to school speaking Vietnamese.
Oh, wow.
At English school. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was just habit, and we would get told off by our teachers, hey, you're at English school, try to communicate in English because there's Aussie kids there too. They're like, what are they saying?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because it was my parents were still integrating into the society. To them, it's a whole new culture, and learning the ins and outs and trying to have a career in life that to raise a family.
Yeah.
Of course, they still worked in, let's say, Asian communities, so they only know minimal English. So it was really crucial, growing up, especially for my grandparents. But I know they cannot forget the mother tongue, so we still had to go to Vietnamese school. We were, expected to speak Vietnamese at home as well. So it's very strict in that sense, which I'm so grateful for, because I think it would really suck if I forgot my mother tongue or wouldn't be able to communicate in Vietnamese,
Yes.
Especially when you travel and stuff later on. So I'm very grateful for that, but hated it back then. I'm like, no, it's too much homework.
You know what's crazy is actually, so obviously we were myself, I'll speak for myself because I have cousins who ended up immigrated to California where there's a larger Vietnamese community. And actually, in fact, because today's Lunar New Year, I reached out to my cousin. She's Jilang, but we call her Jamie in English. And she was telling me hey, what are you guys doing? And then she was quizzing us. So she's much older than myself and my other cousin Nhung, we were all on this chat together. And she was like, let me quiz you. What's the first thing, the one thing everybody does on Lunar New Year, on Vietnamese New Year? And I was just like, oh, eat kowa. So if you know what that is, right? Kowa,
Kowa, right?
Oh, maybe you're saying it differently.
What
Kowa.
is
So the
is it like
bitter,
the vitamin? Oh, yeah.
the green, very, very, very bitter, but like the concept behind what the name is, so ko is like sadness, misery, right? Like the way
Yeah.
it's like translates to like sadness, and hua is like
Oh,
over, like so misery's over. So my mom always told me on New Year's on that you always eat kowa so that you can let the misery of the last year pass you. So I
that's
thought
so
she was like,
interesting.
so I thought she was saying that. And so I was like, oh,
Mm.
I know this answer. She goes, no, it's go to like that festivities and, you know, and like, you know, eat all the food. And I was like, oh, well, you know, we never really had a chance growing up going to like Buddhist temples because we had, I think we had like 2 in the DC area that were Vietnamese Buddhist temples, but there was one that we particularly went to. And my mom, she loved going, but she didn't like how busy it got. And she said people were just like, it brought out like the ugly in people because it was just so hectic that she didn't like going. And so my cousin told me, she was like, oh, well, within a 50-mile radius, we have like 50 to 75 Buddhist temples here. And I was like, what? That is so crazy. Like we weren't raised to be very devout Buddhists, but I felt like just missing that part of the culture was like, so like, oh, I kind of wish I grew up in there.
But you know what's funny? Like I was raised in a Catholic family, so our family was Catholic, but we also integrated Buddhism practice through Dut as well. So we have like the Dut festivals, we have the Ao Yai, and everything like, you know, still celebrating that, you know. So it's quite confusing, you know, because they do integrate and mix, you know, religion and culture together. Like that's what I find with like Vietnamese culture. But yeah, like I do miss the festivity, like especially in today, because I actually moved all the way from Australia to Vancouver. I've been here for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm unable to celebrate that with my family. But you know, we still wish each other good luck and prosperity. And of course, I'm too old now. I don't get the lucky money anymore.
No more red envelopes for you.
No, I have to give it to them now. So I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yes. And my other cousin sent me a video of her 3 girls, and you know, they were holding like the red envelope, and they were huge. They were like really big red envelopes. I'm like, that's ours used to come like super tiny.
I know.
Like, our money was like tri-folded and like stuffed in there, and now they're like super big. I'm like, what kind of money is going in there these days?
I know. I'm just like, I wish I was young again, right? Because we had all the advantages, but whatnot. But no, it's all fun then.
Yes.
But yeah, as I mentioned, like, yeah, it was really different. I love having that, you know, integration, or you know, having the experience, the authentic experience of living in a Vietnamese culture. But when you're like, you know, having, you know, that mother tongue, that language, and then you have to integrate into Western culture, it was kind of a little bit different, you know. You felt like, you know, there's an expectation to be met. So the other thing I think I shared briefly to you was as well, that's like my parents were also went through a divorce, and living in a community where it was, at least it's much smaller compared to like, you know, Melbourne and Sydney and whatnot. So I didn't know anybody at that time. You know, parents were going through a divorce or, you know, going through any of that. So it was a really tough time when that happened because, as you know, Asian culture, they're quite gossipy and judgmental. So it was hard for me and my brother because we had to move schools, you know, so having something that you're so used to and so accustomed to, you know, the comfort, just suddenly be like, mum took us away. And I had to go to like a more westernized school. I had a best friend from in my community, and her parents told her not to hang out with me anymore because my family was broken.
Aww.
So yeah, and the thing is, like, I didn't realize how much of an effect it caused me, like internally, because I grew up thinking like, I don't want to burden people with my problems. I don't want to talk about any of this because, you know what, I might get judged. I might have friends. You know, it was a shameful thing that I attached to the occurrence. So me and my mom had a really tumultuous like relationship growing up after that because I blamed her a lot, you know, for that, you know, divorce and that separation from my dad. And I think like, you know, when you're young, when you're angry, you only see one side of one thing. Okay, so for me, it was very one side for a very long time, and I just didn't get along with my stepdad, you know. So I got kicked out of home like 4 times because I was just an angry teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my brother, he was kind of like dealing with his, like, discovering his sexuality. So he's gay, and he's also, he's non-gender binary, my brother. And he wasn't able to kind of like express himself back then. And for me, my way of dealing with things was to go out and pretend like nothing's going on. So, coming back to the escapism, act like nothing's happening. Just build myself physically. So I was more of a strong person physically. I was very into sports, very competitive, because that's how I channeled my anger. But for my brother, he was more introverted. He would stay home and, he would cry out his emotions. So I think that was a better way of dealing with things, when it comes to an emotional kind of aspect. So like moving schools, so it was tough for us, but then, our way of dealing with things didn't really help as well, like especially for me. And as I got older, when you start going to university, high school, you start drinking and partying with your friends. That's when a lot of these emotions and kind of like struggle resurface, but it became more of reactive behavior. So I would get triggered. I would say I was very angry quite a lot, Jasmine, like very reactive, like things that would piss me off. I didn't take time to think about it and respond. It was very like, no, my way or the highway, like don't get in my way kind of thing. I was very angry. And and as I got older, I just like felt entitled as well, because it's just like, you couldn't see things from, just anyone's perspective. It's more like, why are people around me affecting me this way? And it just got to the point where things were so bad. So I cut my mom out for 4.5 years. Like we did not talk for 4.5 years. I just had enough with the negativity and all that anger, So it was strange. It was a sad moment because I had to stop communication with my baby brother, half baby brother. And basically it helped me kind of get on with my life. So during that separation, me and my mom, I got my master's degree in HR. I, got my first time full job. Like just good things started to happen. I think as sad as it is, but sometimes you do have to go through that separation to kind of, relieve things for yourself and bring in good energy for yourself. Like, do you believe in like the law of attraction and vibration?
Do.
Yes,
absolutely. And actually, two different events, two completely unrelated events that I've went to recently. Both keynote speakers both said that you are a culmination of the top 5 people on your list and your circle. And so one of them said that, and I was just like, so if I'm an average of the 5 people around me, what am I? So I'm thinking of my top 5 people, which my circle is pretty small. I like to keep it very small, close. And then another person said, now you take those 5 people, you put it on a list and you do check marks or thumbs up or thumbs down for them when you're in their in their surrounding. How do you feel when they're around you? Like, are they toxic or are they bringing your energy level up? And so that's really, I 100% agree with that. I think sometimes no matter how close the person is to you, if you've tried to help whatever there's like resolve their problem for them, and if it hasn't worked, you just have to, at some point you have to say, I have to step away and it's for me. It's no longer healthy for me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it was tough, like, because like I basically nurtured my half baby brother at the time, and to be able to having to separate myself from my mum meant that I had no kind of connection with him anymore. So it was very difficult, but in turn, I felt like I had to do it for myself. It was just too many years of like just anger, resentment. And what it did was it really built up this wall around me. I grew up, I was just like, I need to be an independent bad bitch. Oh, can I swear on here?
Yeah, sorry. Of course. Yes. Go ahead. It's all yours.
Because I was just like, to protect myself from ever feeling hurt again, I'm just like, I need to be an independent bad bitch. Prove to her that I'm smart. I mean, strong woman, physically, emotionally, and mentally, everything that she wasn't, because she relied on a guy a lot to help provide, and she wasn't independent. So it made me feel like I had to, do it for myself. But even if you're trying so hard to do that for someone, you create a shelf to protect yourself. It also has consequences too. Like I was unable to let people in emotionally and feel vulnerable in some aspect. So by having that hard shell, it protects you, and it's feeding your ego to, kind of go for things and, show a better front of you. But then it also hurts on inside too, because you're not really dealing with anything on the inside. You're just creating a wall.
Yeah, it is. It really
So
is.
yeah, and interestingly, like I went through onto life, through my adolescence and early 20s, did my degrees, you partied a heap,
Mhm.
just like as you do as you're younger.
Yeah.
Finished my degree, started work, and then it just came to when I was 24, I would describe it as like a maybe a quarter life crisis. I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, no, I've heard.
I was just like, man, I feel so lack of like no purpose again.
Mhm.
I felt so unhappy still, and I just couldn't hold on to, let's say, healthy relationship or ever find somebody that's on my level
Mhm.
of energy level.
Yeah.
So it just really got me down. So I was just like, you know what? I had this urge to move. Like, I need to move. Like this city is so small. I know that there's more out there, and I need to go.
Mhm.
So I was in Hawaii with one of my best mates, and then we had the most amazing time. We
Mhm.
met so many different entrepreneurs, people from different walks of life, and it hit me.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, the world is so big. Like, why am I so just restricted in just my city?
Uh-huh.
So originally, I wanted to move to Hawaii
Mhm.
because I loved Hawaii, but you know what? You need a green card or a Hawaiian husband, and that's impossible to get. So if you know any like bachelor Hawaiian bachelor, let me know.
Yeah, yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Yes, please. I'm taking applications.
That's funny.
So it didn't work out. So my mate was actually in Canada, and he's like,
Yeah.
you know what? It's really easy for Australians to apply for the Canadian visa because
Mhm.
we're under the same Commonwealth. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to Google Maps how far Vancouver is to Hawaii, 4 hours
Oh,
away. Okay, great. I applied for the visa. I got
uh-huh.
accepted.
Okay.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to work out towards the end of the year and then go. But
Uh-huh.
then everything started happening so weirdly. Like my job went through restructure, and then
Mhm.
I got the payout instead. So I took the
Mm.
payout
Mhm.
early, and I went on a 6 months backpacking trip
Mm.
just to prepare myself for this move, abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the best thing I've done because I went to Asia,
Mhm.
and with all those kind of like anger, and controlling, behavior I had
Uh-huh.
because I wanted to make sure that I had control of my life,
Uh-huh.
was all kind of like let go during the backpacking trip. Because when you
Oh.
backpack, you're just going with the flow.
Mhm.
I didn't plan anything. If I felt like leaving country, I would leave.
Mhm.
If I felt
Yeah.
like staying somewhere, I would stay a bit longer. And it taught me how to breathe and kind of
Uh-huh.
learn to live in that moment. Like things,
Yeah.
like a lot of the things that I thought was important started to
Mhm.
change a bit. Like,
Mhm.
at 30, I felt like, oh man, I need to have my house, my
Mm.
husband, and my
Yeah.
investments. The Asian
Yeah.
mentality.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that was success for me. And then on the trip, it really taught me to breathe. You know
Uh-huh.
what? Like things happen and just let it happen. You
Yeah.
don't always need to be in control.
Mhm.
And you know what? Just be yourself. Because when you're on your backpacking trip, you meet people and you
Mhm.
can let down this wall and be instantly like, hey, I'm Nhung and this is who I am.
Mhm.
When you're
Mhm.
back into your society, your people know you already have this identity. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's a little bit harder to be like, this is the real Nhung, kind of thing. Or like,
Mhm.
so it taught me a lot in this backpacking trip. And I was able to kind of reevaluate what was important to me and what I
Mhm.
wanted to prioritize in my life. And for me, it's now that, having experiences, life experiences, being
Mhm.
able to have good people in my life that can teach me things, help me develop
Mhm.
and just kind of enjoy things. I think like
Yeah.
sometimes you're sort of fixated on the illusion of the future. It causes you
Yes.
stress. Yes.
Yes.
Do you go
Yeah.
through that too?
Yes, yes. No, we
Yes.
talk about this a lot on the show
Mm.
is so many people saying, sometimes you're so busy running towards something that you need to just really just come to a complete stop for a second. And when you stop, something really incredibly amazing happens. And that's when you really find your true self. You have a moment to really understand who you are, what your purpose is, and where you should be going with that. And your direction suddenly has like a complete shift because you're able to just stop and really listen to who you authentically are and where you should be in life. And it's just the
Mm.
most amazing thing. So,
It is, yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, it is so scary because you live in a society that does really condition you to kind of be like everyone else,
Hmm.
like stay in this box. And I think it was scary for me because I have a podcast too, and which we'll mention. My last episode was just about me, and it took me weeks to do it because I'm so nervous of actually, exposing to people like this is the real Nhung. Like I cry sometimes too. I'm not just like this happy-go-lucky person all the time. That there's things. But it's definitely been a learning journey for me. So after that trip, I came home for a month, sold my car, said goodbye to like my friends and family, and I moved over. And it was, of course, like coming from a warm, sunny place to suddenly be all cold and snowy. I was like, oh my God. I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
But it really did take some time to acclimatize as well, and get used to the environment. You're here, you're partying, you be social to make new friends. So getting back to the old habits and stuff again, like I was also going through a little bit of a heartbreak, like something didn't work out with someone, and bringing that over to somewhere new, I never really dealt with it because I always never wanted to deal with things. I was brushing the rug, like, no, I'm too cool, too good to actually deal with these things. And I think we were speaking, when COVID happened. Oh my Lord. I mean, when you're not able to go out and be social and, escape anymore, travel, do anything, I was faced with my demons. I had to be like, you know what? I'm done with feeling shit with my life or feeling so down and feeling empty inside. It's time to change something. And throughout 2020, I took up meditation on a daily basis. So with that, it really helped to kind of like quiet down the external noise, the things that were just bugging me, and I started journaling again, to write down things and write down good things about myself because I felt like I had really low self-esteem, by that point. At the end of 2019, of never really dealing with things, and I felt like I always wasn't good enough for, let's say, my parents, or for people around me or people at work. But I just never recognized or acknowledged the victories I did for myself. So it was about changing a lot of that, self-respect and self-worth and self-talk about myself. And I gotta say, it instantly has helped so much. Like it's really helped me program a lot of things in my mind about myself. And I also looked into hypnotherapy. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I've heard bits and pieces. If you can just kind of explain to our listeners in case they don't know.
Sure. So it basically it's like a form of hypnosis, but a therapeutic kind of like method. So I did this with a hypnotherapist, and what he did was he helped me really kind of delve in deeply with all of like the underlying issues and traumas I went through. Memories from, let's say, when my parents were going through a divorce. My mom was she was cheating as well. So a lot of things I was exposed to. Like things that I thought that didn't bother me anymore, he was able to dig down deep. And what he discovered through this therapy was that I have a fear of rejection and abandonment. That's why every time when I want to do something or move for something, I have this thing that's holding me back, that fear of rejection, of not fitting in or not being accepted. And once that's discovered, he helped me separate the entity and told me to say goodbye to it. So basically, I was saying goodbye to that fear of rejection and saying goodbye to that fear of abandonment because I'm just like, I don't need you anymore. I want to move on with my life and be happy, where I am and what I'm doing. So, and after that session, he gives you, the therapist gives you like a reprogramming meditation for 21 days. It takes 21 days to, I think, form a habit or so. And just to rewire, all of that. And after that, that's when I started my podcast because it's part of therapy.
Wow. So it is very therapeutic.
Yes. So I have been, doing a lot of things, like trying different things to just kind of help myself feel better, and I think when it comes down to like self-help and self-development, it's such an important thing, and you have to be at a point in your life where you're just like, I'm ready for it and be open to it, I mean, it's okay to maybe take your time, there's different stages for people's lives to be like, I'm ready to kind of do things or I'm not. But I think for me, it has drastically helped a lot. And I mean, I took the whole year to become a Buddha and a Zen out. So it's very good to finally slow down and
Yeah.
be with myself, and accept myself for who I am. So
Yeah.
it's been a tough and long journey, but I'm so grateful for, in a way, grateful for the opportunity to be slowing down, and
Yeah. Exactly.
breathe for once.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I had to please anybody but myself in a way.
Right, right. And I think, one thing that I know about our culture is that even though, you're here, you're all alone over there in Vancouver, there's no family around, there's nobody that knew you growing up there, I still feel like you still have this like presence and aura that you have to maintain. And I think it has so much to do with like the Vietnamese culture and the whole like saving face, right? Like my cousins and I have this discussion all the time. This whole like save face bullshit that they keep talking about, like it drives me nuts. Like who the fuck cares? Like nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Just do you. And if you look like an idiot, then okay, learn from that experience and move on.
Exactly.
But we are so emotionless. And maybe I'm just speaking for my family, but we are so emotionless as a culture. We don't show emotions. We don't embrace. We don't say I love you. Like in my family, again, we don't say I love you. We don't give hugs. We don't do a lot of things that Western culture does. And so growing up with that identity crisis of like, am I Vietnamese? Am I American? Am I Vietnamese? Am I American? Like I'm trying to like conform to both, and neither is accepting me because the Vietnamese community looks at me and they're like, you're not petite enough. You're not light skinned enough. You're not fair skinned enough. And then the American culture looks at me, and I'm going to lunch with like my little lunch box and a little rice platter, and, like, mom, or something.
Get away from us. Yes, I know.
So it's like, I never felt accepted either way. And it was such a struggle growing up, not even knowing who I am and where I fit in, and if I should pretend to be more this or more this, or, and it took a really long time for me to learn to embrace myself as like a hybrid of the two. And
100%. Yeah. And I can definitely resonate, because even like in Asian, Vietnamese, and Aussie culture, it's like that as well. You do get the minimal racism. It's like, oh, what is that? What are you eating? Or like, when you don't fit in either, like I would say, just growing up as very unconventional Asian. I'm like all the way over here. None of my friends are doing this. You do get judged as well. They think that because I moved at first, my mom's still like, why are you still playing around? Like you should think about your life and come home, have kids and family. I was like, Mom, I'm actually working, have a career.
Yeah.
Like
that playing around. I've heard that phrase before. Like
ham joy,
Yes,
like,
yes.
Joy,
Yeah.
Just like, oh my God, joy, and stuff.
Yes.
I was like, and the expectation is still there. Like, how much are you earning? Like, let me know. So let's say when my friends ask, I can tell like, none of your friends are going to ask, Dad, like, come on, calm down. Like, it's frustrating. I 100% get it. But the thing is like, I'm so happy that throughout 2020, my parents and my relationship has mended. So me and my mom are totally good now. I've fully forgiven, I think that really has helped me to let go and forgiven.
Yeah.
And my dad, I'm able to talk to him about these deep mental health topics. It's so weird.
Wow.
He's so embracive. Yeah. And you know what? It's like you mentioned, we are very emotionless kind of like culture, whatnot. And, mental health, there's a stigma in, Asian society. We don't talk about these things.
Yeah.
So the vocabulary is kind of hard to project.
Right.
And I was able to speak to him about it, and he totally understood. It was really weird.
Wow.
And like he's just like, okay, well, now he doesn't try to put that stress on me anymore. He's like, you know what? Remember to relax. Don't overthink things. Live in the present. Live in the now.
Wow.
Because,
wait, your dad is saying this?
Yes.
That's extremely progressive for a Vietnamese man.
And do you know the book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now? I don't know. Yeah. So I read that book earlier during COVID, and I was like explaining this to him, and he literally would lay back all the concept in that book. I was like, why did I even bother buying this book? You literally giving me this information for free. But you know what? I think it's also that barrier that I guess maybe mindset we have about our parents. We forget that they've been through things and been through life as well. And for me, I recognize that I should have just maybe been more open. Like I'm an adult now. They are gonna learn, and they have to learn to accept that. So they can also offer me the advice that maybe I seek for when they were at that stage of their life. So it was so cool. And now every time we chat, he's just like, "Yo, don't stress. Don't think about too much about the future. Let's chill." It's so weird.
What? Oh my God. You know, I know like all my cousins are going to listen to this and look at you like, what kind of family did you grow up in? Like, maybe there is something different about growing up in Australia.
Maybe it's the sun. I don't know what it is, you know.
That's so
But
funny. Yeah.
it's very different, you know, and I'm so glad and, you know, grateful to have him being so accepting. And, you know, obviously I was telling you that my brother is gay, and, you know, obviously it
Yeah.
was difficult for my parents. But
I imagine. Yeah.
my dad was like the first one to fully be like, "Nope, he's my son. I fully accept it." It was my mum that was found it harder. So it was really strange.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, your dad's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's got to talk to the rest of our dads. We need him.
Yes, definitely.
We need you to share him.
Yes, definitely. I could like set up this whole seminar or talk, definitely.
That's so
But
funny.
like overall, like like I said, you know, even being through all of this and finally being able to heal and be open about it, I feel so great, you know. And the thing is, like, I think you don't know how much support and how many people are going through the same thing that you might be through as well. So what I've learned is to be okay with being vulnerable. You know, like using my vulnerability as an indicator of when I'm feeling something rather than a weakness to hide myself or the things I've gone through.
Yeah.
So by changing that mindset and perspective, I really have connected with so many like-minded people that's been through something I've been through, or being able to connect more, you know, on a deeper level, like for yourself, you know, even chatting to you, I'm just like, holy shoot, like there's someone in America that always has the same mindset and the same kind of ambition and goal to, you know, help talk to people and give them this information of how to deal with these things. Because, you know, like I say, we've grown up in a society where we're numb to these feelings or get conditioned to hide it away. So it's been so awesome since then.
Yeah. No, so, you know, like going back to what you were saying and how therapeutic it was for you to start your podcast, like that's the whole reason why I started Comfort Kills. Was it was just a passion project. I wanted to hear stories about other people's inspirations, whatever it is they came from, whether they had some sort of trauma in the past and now they're triumphant, whatever the case may be. That's what I wanted to hear. I needed to hear that for myself. But if I can change another life with somebody else hearing the same message, that's what I wanted to do. But it had really, like, it was just selfish. It was selfish of me to go out and meet all these people and learn all these things. But I have learned so much just talking to different individuals, different walks of life, different backgrounds. It's been pretty amazing. And so I can only imagine like what you're learning, going out there, like when you're saying you're going out there, you're meeting people, you're traveling, backpacking for 6 months and just meeting so many different people. Like, I envy that. Like, I wish if I could give advice to my children, that's what I would totally say. I'd be like, you know, live life to the fullest. If you have the opportunity to, there's no strings attached. Go and explore the world. And that was one thing when I joined the military. When I was 18, I learned that there was so much more because I was raised in the DC area. So joining the military allowed me to realize that there was more to the country than just DC type mentality. There was so many people from so many different walks of life. You had Southerns, you had Cali people, you had people from up north, like way northeast, and then you have everybody else in between. And it was pretty amazing to just realize that even within this country itself, there are so many differences. And, you know, like growing up Vietnamese, I understood that there were differences within even just the country of Vietnam between North, Central, and South. But then actually living it here in the US and understanding people from certain states even have different accents here was just like so incredibly like great for my knowledge and my growth to understand as a human being that we just have to learn to coexist with each other because there's a lot of differences out there and you just have to go out and explore and see what works for you.
Exactly, you know, and you know what's so interesting, like you said, on an external level, you know, we might look different, we might, you know, have different cultures and maybe have different dialects, but through my travel, what I realized is that what makes us all the same is our emotions and who we are on the inside. So I was just like, it wasn't shameful for me anymore to like meet all these people, like, hey, this is Nhung, and you know, this is how I feel, and they'll be like, my friend from Israel, he's like, oh, I went through this too, you know, kind of thing. I'm like, what? So that's the thing, like I 100% do also recommend to anybody, like you know, when COVID is lifted, whatnot, to just go explore, you know, immerse yourself in something different. Comfort kills. Hello,
Yeah.
don't let your
Uh-huh.
comfort kill your happiness. Like, just get
Exactly.
out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you never know. Mm.
And so often, we love to, we often fall back. We don't love necessarily, but we find ourselves falling back into fear. What is it that you suggest, or what are ways that you find to propel past that and go into just being able to go forward from that?
Oh, you know what, Jess? It's a really good question because I
Hmm.
ask everyone this also, and I'm trying to, like,
Uh-huh.
gather different things. But for me, I feel like there's always going to be fear there. You
Uh-huh.
just have to push through it, and get
Hmm.
through it. Just have belief, like
Hmm.
whatever it is, have belief in yourself. Things will
Hmm.
always get better. And if things don't work out and you're scared of failing again, don't worry, it's directing you to something different and better. So I
Hmm.
keep reminding myself of that. I try to not be so fixated all the time. I don't let fear stagnate
Hmm.
me. I try to keep
Hmm.
moving,
Yeah.
and I I always want to be progressive. So for me,
Hmm.
like, if I let that fear hold me back, I'm not going to move anywhere. So that's
Yeah.
how I remind myself. And
Hmm.
actually surround yourself with people who also have the same mindset, to,
Yeah.
yeah, give you that extra push and remind you of how great you are, because
Yeah.
sometimes there's so much you can say for yourself, but if you surround yourself with people with the same mindset and aspirations, it
Hmm.
keeps you going, and you're like,
Hmm.
yes, it's good
Hmm.
to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. It
But
really is.
can I ask you a question? What is your
Yeah, of course.
advice for, let's say, going towards, getting out of fear and getting out of
Hmm.
your comfort zone?
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you're saying fear, to me, I also
Mm,
associate fear with complacency, because
mm,
sometimes we're just comfortable with where we are, and hence comfort kills. And fear fear comes from you not exploring enough, right? And it comes from you not being able to, again, just stepping outside of your comfort zone. So to me, leaving that place of comfort, leaving that place of familiarity, leaving that fear behind and catapulting yourself into the next thing is really incredibly important. And the way that I do that is we're like twins here. So you said belief. I'm not sure if I'm being influenced by you or if this is really coming out of my own brain, but like you say belief, but I like feel like have faith in yourself. Have
yes.
faith that you can do this, that you were raised this way. I mean, there's something internally inside you that tells you maybe this is a good idea, but then there's another part of you, right? So there's that angel and that devil, right? So the angel is like
Yes.
saying, yeah, this is a great idea. That's your cheerleader. And then you got the devil who wants to be like the Debbie Downer, drag you down and say, no, we're good over here. We're okay here. We don't really need that extra income. We don't need that promotion. We don't need that,
Hmm.
anything. We don't need that new project. We don't need any of that. And so it's really just believing in yourself and knowing that when you have your angel telling you that you can do this, it's because you do really truthfully inside feel something, and you feel connected and you feel pulled into that direction. So the energy around you is pulling you, but then the,
Hmm.
the, the little devil behind you is saying, nope, stay over
I
here. We're,
know.
we're, we're happy over here. So to me, that's how I would say, you really have to understand yourself, and if unless it really, and this is my healthcare background, unless it comes back to you like being a safety issue for yourself or others, then that's the only time I would say absolutely do not, like, that's not something you should pursue. But if it's something that's
Mm,
good for you, good for your family, good for people around you, good for your community, then absolutely 100% do it, because I'm all about contributing back to the community, no matter what you consider your community. If it's your local church, if it's your kid's school, if it's your workplace, wherever it is, giving back,
mhm.
because I believe in karma,
Me
and
too.
and so
100%.
I want all the good karma in the world, and I
Yeah.
want to be able to because it makes me feel good. So it's really selfish of me to do these projects or to take these next steps, because I want to do something that gives me back karma. So in a way, like, that's just kind of how I do it. I tell myself, you know
Nice.
what, I'm being selfish. I want to do this, whatever it is that I may want to do,
Mm.
take on this next project, and I'm going to do it because it's for me, and it's for the community. It's good for everybody, and like that's one of the examples of how Comfort Kills came
Mm.
about. So
That's amazing and so
yeah.
inspiring. And do you know what? When we say the word selfish, I see it such a different way now.
Okay.
I don't think selfish as being a bad thing. I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like like just speaking to a lot of people and stuff in the past as
Hmm.
well, they're just like to me like you have to be selfish to some aspect because how are you supposed to provide and contribute to anything if you don't even contribute to yourself first, fill up that cup. I don't know if you get that a lot as well.
Yes, refill that cup. Yes. Yeah. And that's important too, is being able to, sometimes that is how you fill your cup, is by contributing back to your community, by doing something that's good for others or good for yourself, and so if what I want to do is start a new business, and for me it's not going to make me go bankrupt, it's not a huge financial burden for me, then let's do it, because I clearly see that there's a need, there's a gap in our society for whatever that business may be, and I'm going to pursue it. Or if I want to write a book, and that's on my agenda for the future. So if I want to write a book, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to figure out how to do that. I'm going to do my research and do it and put it together. So definitely.
Anything is possible, if you do release a book, let me know and send me a copy. Read the shit out of it.
I love it. I'm going to quote that right there. I've already started working on it. I've met quite a few authors. And so a lot of things that people just keep saying over and over is like, if you feel like you have a story to share, it's because you do. And I went from being a high school dropout to now earning my doctorate degree, and so, being part of an Asian family, not even finishing high school, and my parents were okay with it because, she's a Vietnamese girl. She's just going to get married, have babies. It's so acceptable to them when I was just like, I'm done with high school. And it's not because I was a rebel too, but it's not because I was really a rebel at that point in time. At that point in time, I think all my friends were just going out and getting high and getting drunk during school hours, that I was like, you know what? I'm so tired of the peer pressure. I don't even want to be here anymore. And that's the reason why I stopped going to school. But then I was just like, oh no, but I do have to finish. And, I'm a good student. I get great grades. I was on a really good path with my education to go to the university and everything. And I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to be complacent, step back into this perfect little box that they created for all little Vietnamese girls out there, where you just
the mom life, right? Wife and mom.
Exactly. And in fact, a family friend started trying to betrothed me to their kid. It was the weirdest thing, trying to do matchmaker for us. And I was 16.
Oh, I hate that. No way, I'm not going to marry.
I'm like, oh, okay. That's my potential husband.
Do you also get called sour milk, or something like that?
Oh, well, yeah, I've heard that, but not me. I got married really young. I got married really young. I did.
Because I'm 27 going to 28 this year, literally called home for Christmas.
Yeah.
All my aunties, uncles, and grandparents were like, Nhung, stop being so picky. You're gonna be single forever if you don't start looking. And I'm just like, oh my God, it makes me laugh so much because I'm like, come on, we're in the 21st century, it's okay to focus on, your pentacles or, being successful, then have a husband. And it's okay to be picky, you know what I mean? It's so funny. They still have that Asian expectation, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Come on, you're chop,
Yeah. But and it's funny that they say that. And yes, I've heard that phrase a lot. But I feel like, even in Western culture, they do that. Oh, you know what? Your clock is ticking, your eggs are shriveling. And I still think even in Western culture, they kind of keep the same, I don't know, this same, they still keep women in the same kind of light sometimes too. It depends on who you're talking to. But I do hear that, I hear women saying it about themselves. I hear American women saying, well, I'm already 28, my eggs are ticking, I still haven't even found a boyfriend yet. But
I know.
But you have nothing to worry about. You are beautiful, and Asian fetish is still a thing, and you're gonna get you a gorgeous Hawaiian guy. That's what you're gonna do.
Oh yes. I'm waiting for the Hawaiian husband. That's why.
Yes.
But yeah, it's funny to me because I feel like I'm nowhere near there, emotionally or mentally or anything right now, because I feel like there's still so much I need to work on for myself. And it did kind of kill a little bit of my self-esteem before, because I just couldn't get into a healthy relation and stuff whatnot. But then I think it's because I didn't have that self-worth and self-love for myself. But since I've been working on that, I feel so much better. And people do say when you're very focused on yourself, or you do have harder for you to find someone that meets you that way. So I'm totally fine, and I'll be patient till the Hawaiian husband comes.
Yes, yes. It'll come. It'll come. We are speaking it into existence now. We are putting it
Exactly.
out there into the world, and it'll happen. It'll happen. All
Yes, for
right.
sure.
So, Nyom, if someone is thinking about going on a spiritual journey, what advice would you
Mhm.
give them?
Oh, I think like you have to be open to it or feel ready to it or have a
Mhm.
calling to it, because I mean, if you, for some people, they have a different mindset of what spirituality is.
Mhm.
It's interpreted in very different ways.
Yes.
Like, you can say that there's a misconception. When you think of spirituality, you think of hippies. You think
Uh-huh.
of people who just like smoke weed all the time
Yeah.
and just maybe don't shave the legs or shave the armpits. But actually, spirituality is interpreted so different ways in so different, many different cultures.
Mhm.
For myself, it's more about lifting up myself, my spirit internally.
Mhm. Yes.
So I would say like you have to be open or feel a calling to it. Like you
Right.
can't just impose or enforce like just something onto somebody.
Mm.
For myself, I really wanted to go on this journey as a means to feel lift my own spirit and feel good about myself again.
Mhm.
So I seeked out let's say methods through meditation and
Mhm.
journaling,
Okay.
and yeah, as a form to practice it, to lift up my own spirit.
Mhm.
So that would be my advice. I don't want to force it onto anybody. It's just more like something that you got to personally feel
Exactly.
that's right
Yeah.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will echo that in saying that I think a lot of people also have the misconception that spirituality is religion synonymously, and it's
Mm,
not. And I think a
not
lot of
yeah.
people need to realize that it is two totally different things. And being spiritual doesn't mean you have to be religious. And so because people synonymously put those two words side by side, they think that, oh, that means I have to go to church to be spiritual. And that's not what we're saying. We're saying connect with yourself spiritually,
Mm,
mind, body, soul with yourself. Being
yeah.
able to connect with yourself will allow you to then explore other options, but being true and knowing who you are deep down inside and just pausing and stopping for a second in life, that's the
Yes.
most important thing.
And that's a
Yeah.
beautiful way to put it. I've never heard someone interpret it like that. That was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
You should write that book. Include that in your book.
I will. I'm taking notes, taking notes.
But it's definitely right. It is like connecting your mind, body, and soul.
Mhm.
Because it's like the chakras. The energy kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and in so many aspects, throughout like my struggles or internal things that I was neglecting about myself, everything was
Mhm.
in alignment. Nothing was aligned. And when I started to be more aware, when you're being
Yeah.
spiritual, you're being self-aware.
Uh-huh.
A lot of things became a lot better. Let's say things I used to be
Mhm.
reactive.
Mhm.
I would literally be aware and take a step back, feel it, and then
Mhm.
respond. Rather than before that, no, I hate this feeling. I'm not feeling it. So it was more like and
Mhm.
the ego trying to
Yeah.
protect itself.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, spirituality taught me how to kind of like diminish that,
Mhm.
and also just be more like nicer to myself as a whole, like sometimes you get so in the mix of being so self-judgmental, you judge yourself so harshly, and by being open to lifting up my own spirit, I was being able to be like, hang on, you're like, come on, you are good enough, you're doing good enough, like remind myself of these things. Rather than like, no, not good enough, like, oh, I need to be here, I
Yeah.
need to be there, I need to be earning this much. But I'm like, no, just
Mhm.
chill kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, 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 100%. So, like,
Mm,
take some of that pressure off of yourself and let your
mm,
body speak and you just let everything around you speak for you and just listen
mm.
to that silence and see where it's calling you most.
Yes. The
Yeah.
stillness is so
Mhm.
important,
Yeah.
and I would say that before that, it was impossible for me to be still and be by myself because I was so
Mm.
scared of
Uh-huh.
all these emotions and things inside of me.
Yeah.
Um, that's why, the backpacking helped because some days I had to be alone. I was traveling
Mhm.
alone
Mhm.
and I would sit on a beach and read. And I'm like, I really like this, this quietness. And
Yeah.
2020 was the same, was being practicing how to be still,
Yeah.
and be by myself. And it was amazing. And I can say now that I love having my alone time. I can do things
Mhm.
alone and it's fine, you don't
Mhm.
need to be with someone or
Yeah.
be involved in something all the time. You can just be alone and it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you've done a lot of spiritual soul searching over the past few
Mhm.
years, and now you've got projects, right? You mentioned your
Yes.
podcast, so we'll go into that. What are you doing these days? What are you doing for yourself to make yourself feel better, to give back? What are your projects?
Oh, so as part of my healing, I started my podcast. It's called
Uh-huh.
Limitless Callings.
Mhm.
It was just a fun kind of project to kind of help some of my friends going through anxiety and stress through
Mhm.
COVID. Giving the fun concept of giving people a virtual traveling experience. So I'm taking people to different parts of the world,
Mhm.
giving them a bit of a tour, and
Yep.
then providing some information and advice on, let's say, mental health, business, and just overall having some giggles, shits and giggles. Who
Yeah.
doesn't like that? So I done a few episodes, and yeah, I haven't released one this week. I've been a bit inconsistent because I've just started a new full-time job as well.
Okay,
Um,
congrats.
Thank you so much. It's yeah, for an editing company as well. So
Okay.
I've been working with like journalists and people in media. So it's weird how the universe happened, because it's like, man, this is an
Mhm.
awesome opportunity. So
Yeah.
I worked in the HR department there right now.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, like, this project has really meant a lot to me in terms of
Mhm.
being able to be more self-expressive
Mhm.
and be okay with, like, putting myself out there, because I for so
Yeah.
long I get so scared
Uh-huh.
of putting myself out there because I was scared of being judged or what people think. But then
Right.
at the same time, I'm just like, I'm so happy to be able to have that platform that I can share my story and
Mhm.
other people's story
Exactly. Yeah.
to help them, feel better about
Yeah.
themselves, like you. So, yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Very similar. I'm
yeah,
telling you, we are sisters.
I
We are sisters. We
know.
just don't know it yet. We are sisters.
I say I'm pretty sure we're related. Back in
Yeah.
the freaking
Y-
dynasty days. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll have to connect and find out where our parents both grew up,
yes.
and see if there's any correlation there somewhere. Although I've
What's your
never heard
last
of
name? What's your
um
last name?
it's Wing. Yeah.
So okay, well, definitely 100% we're related.
Like the 7 million in
Yes,
this
yes.
world.
I'm pretty sure we're all connected and related some way. Like I don't know, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's the thing. Like with the Nguyen thing, it was a popular last name. That's what my dad said. So
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
would change it to get a job, as well. So it was more favorable.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
So interesting, hey?
jobs.
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't
There we
know that.
go.
I didn't know that. I did know that they said it was something about a very a favored emperor or something like that, and because
Yes.
they were he was respected and loved, the people took his last name. So
Mhm.
it's or he just was a pimp and had lots of wives.
Like what was it? Genghis Khan as well. Apparently, like I don't know if you have like the birthmark or the bluish kind of like birthmark on your butt or your back. Do you know
Oh, the
that one?
Mongolian spots? Oh, yeah, yeah, no,
Yes.
that's an old wives' tale.
It's not real because I
No.
was like,
I'm a Nikki nurse by trade, and so Mongolian spots are very prominent
oh,
in Asian, Hispanic, and African American babies. So it's very
okay. Because I
that's an
was
old
just like,
voice.
I could be related to Genghis Khan as well, like part Mongolian. I don't
Yeah,
know. Oh, that's so funny.
yeah,
Wait, so you're a baby nurse? Did you say?
yes. So neonatal
Oh,
intensive
cool.
care.
Yeah.
That's what I used to do by trade, and then I'm a nurse leader now.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
Okay. Wow.
yeah.
Well, you know what? That's such a good thing, because I think my grandma was also like a baby's nurse. We call them
Yeah.
midwives, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, we have midwives here as well. They're licensed advanced practice nurses, and that was actually the route that I had wanted to go, and then I
Mhm.
ended up putting it on hold, and it just got my doctorate instead. So,
Oh,
went a
amazing.
different path, but yeah, yeah. All right, so Nyom, if I were to give you a billboard and ask
Mhm.
you to put whatever you want to share that message with the world, what would you put on the billboard?
Mm. I would say be courageous and be you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
comfort kills. Use your courage and just be yourself and
Yeah.
embrace yourself. I think that's the greatest gift you can give
Hmm.
to society and
Yeah.
to anybody by being yourself. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, being
Hmm.
uniquely you and just contributing what you can, because, there's something about you that will always, go back towards society
Exactly.
and contribute. All right. So sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Was there anything that you would like to speak of that I didn't get a chance to ask you?
I think you've been such an amazing host. I'm just saying, like this
Yeah.
conversation could go on for ages. But
Yes.
no, I think we touch on like all the relevant kind of topics and
Okay.
things that people might have went through last
Great.
year. And I hope that this will help somebody as well,
Yes.
with like some of the things that we spoke about. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
feel good about it.
Awesome. Well, if Comfort Kills listeners would like to get a hold of you, where is the best place for them to find you? What was the podcast name again? And just some of the different ways for them to get a hold of you.
So if you want to connect with me, you can definitely find me on Spotify.
Mhm.
I'm also on Google Podcast, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio called
All right.
Limitless Callings.
Mhm.
And if you want to see me on Instagram, it's also Limitless Callings. And you can also connect with me on Nhungma, which is NHUNGGMA, to just have a chat. I love making new friends. So please feel free to.
Yes, yes, yes. So I had Limitless Calling earlier, so I just added the S.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Neil, for this conversation. I really enjoyed speaking to you and like discovering my sister from Australia that lives in Vancouver who wants a Hawaiian husband.
Yes.
We are going to work on these goals. These are our 2021 Lunar New Year goals. So we are speaking it into existence now, but it was such a pleasure speaking with you.
You too.
Thank you so much.
I hope we get to meet each other soon, okay?
Yes, yes, yes.